Good morning. I appreciate everybody being here. I just said to David, I'd like to do an update on what ASHRAE is up to with decarbonization. I know it says task force on there. ASHRAE went ahead, and task force is a temporary thing in ASHRAE terms. So now it's the Center of Excellence for Building Decarbonization. So I do sit on the global board for ASHRAE. I'm a director at large. I've been very involved with this decarbonization since it started. So ASHRAE's position is to eliminate GHG emissions from the built environment. It's essential to address climate change. ASHRAE has some very goals, and there's actually a position document. So if you want to go to the ASHRAE.org website, you can get that position document. But basically it says the global built environment must have its 2015 greenhouse gas emissions. All new buildings must be net zero energy. There must be widespread energy efficiency retrofits of existing buildings. New construction embodied carbon must be reduced by at least 40%. We're almost to 2026, and unfortunately we're not near these goals globally. The other thing is in 2050, all new and existing assets of net zero greenhouse gas emissions across the whole life cycle. So it's not only operational carbon, which we can get with energy savings, but whole life carbon, which includes the embodied carbon, what the building materials are, how we get stuff to the site, and after it's done afterwards. So basically what ASHRAE did is we have 4 key focus areas: standards, technical tools, education, and the position document. And it all comes together with the Knowledge Resource Hub. When ASHRAE started out, we said we got to get information into people's hands. So what you'll see here is a lot of the stuff that's available. So the building decarbonization retrofits for commercial and multifamily buildings is available. The whole life carbon guide for building systems. The guide for strategic decarbonization planning actually came out of the Decarb conference we had in New York City. NYSERDA helped to sponsor this. It is actually available for a free download off the ASHRAE.org website. NREL helps sponsor decarbonizing building thermal systems, everything you want to know about heat pumps. This is the initial one. There is a second phase with what's going on south of the border. I'm not sure exactly when that second edition is going to come out, which is more advanced. And the other thing you see there is TM65. If people aren't aware, there's things called environmental product declarations. This allows you to be able to calculate some of that stuff in order to get the EPDs, because in the mechanical industry, especially the HVAC side, there's not that many EPDs out there. Building performance standards, that is another free download. Grid interactive buildings for decarbonization and decarbonization of hospital buildings. You have all the guides out. What about the training? Part of my responsibilities as a board member is I am the liaison to the Training and Education Committee. So you can see what we're doing. One of the feedbacks we got was that people wanted things in more bite-sized chunks. So a lot of things are being done so that they're in a 45-minute presentation to make things easier. And you'll see some of the stuff we're working on. ASHRAE does have a building, decarbonization design professional certification. We're designing a course for that. Decarbonization audit is also being worked on, as well as retrofits for commercial and multifamily buildings. We're trying to give people the tools they need in order to do it. ASHRAE has a yearly decarbonization conference. Next year it will be in Seattle in September. And the big thing is we want to make sure that people have the tools they need. And I can tell you the other thing ASHRAE is exploring right now is doing training for technicians as well. And that will start with refrigerants to start. Standards. All of our standards are going to have carbon in them if they don't already. And it's got to be uniform. What we found is a lot of the standards that we had different, referencing different levels, different things. Everything now wants to be uniform, and even standard 90.1 will be carbon neutral by 2031. So what they did is they came up with a bunch of projects. This is what we want to do. We've got the guides out. I'm just going to fly through these because there's a lot of them. You'll get the slides to take a look at it. Flexible International Building Code Framework. Internationally, people have different responsibilities, but give them the tools to be able to develop a framework for a building code that works in their particular area. Decarbonization strategies for the supermarket. You think about all the open coolers and stuff. There's a lot of opportunities in supermarkets for decarbonization. AI data centers. This wasn't originally on the list, but with the big push towards data centers, AI data centers is now one of the projects that they're working on. And you can see the steps there. I'll let you go through that at your own. Expand and update the HVAC equipment service life data. Believe it or not, the last time this was updated was 2005. There's actually a research project that's being done to update this to get more relevant data. Whole life carbon gap analysis. What do we have to do in order to have significant carbon reduction by that 2030 and then net zero by 2050? Whole life carbon gap analysis, again, there's more details, and the calculation guide for building systems. These are all projects they're working on. This has been feedback from the industry. There's a lot of other groups that have been involved in this to come up, what is it that people want? Whole building MEP benchmarking, data research, again, another research project in order to get the tools that we need. Residential retrofit, we can't forget about residential. What can we do in terms of decarbonization with residential retrofits? Refrigerant emission management, tracking, and compliance. If you look, the amount of refrigerant emissions, depending on who you look at, that data can vary widely in terms of what you should allow for refrigerant emissions over the course of that product. So there's now a project, a research project in order to get more relevant data. And with the switch to A2L and A3 refrigerants, we don't have the data, accurate data, so we need more accurate data. So we had the task force, which is more operational. Now we're moving to the Center of Excellence for Building Decarbonization, which is strategic. So here's some of their strategic initiatives. Engineering guidance and technical implementation. We said we had that decarbonization planning guide, is to give a compendium with that so that you know exactly how to go about doing that. Building case development and market transformation. How can we optimize high performance buildings? We want to create a 2050 building decarbonization roadmap. We need enhanced engagement and education programs. The group is looking for feedback as to what people want. So if you have anything, please send a note to decarb@ashrae.org, or if you want to volunteer to help, we're always looking for volunteers to help. AI integration and innovation. How is AI going to be integrated into the HVAC? For ASHRAE, it's a real concern with standards. How can AI play a role? So we have actually hired an outside consultant, because AI is not our forte, to help us guide us how we can move forward with AI. People here familiar with MEP 2040? Okay, it is a group that anybody can join. They've come out with an embodied carbon guide. We talked about operational carbon. This will help you with the embodied carbon. It is a free download. There is also a quarterly update coming up December 4th. So if you go to mep2040.org, you can sign up if you want to see that quarterly update. And the last thing I wanted to give you is this was just approved by the board 2 weeks ago, is we are now establishing an IEQ Center of Excellence. That's indoor environmental quality. It's not just IAQ, but it includes acoustics, it includes lighting, daylighting. It will operate the same as what the Building Decarbonization Center of Excellence does, but they will be working together because we have to make sure that the indoor environment is still good for people while we are reducing energy, to make sure that they work together for that. And with that, I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.